Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. Let me adjust my headset here. Soccer's morning show, Soccer Down Here. It's a Tuesday thoughts. We got stuff. Okay, so here in various forms and fashions is what's on the table this morning. We got Open Cup today and tomorrow, and Thursday, really, the after effects of. There's an Open Cup today. We'll go over those. Matches in the Premier League today. We'll go over those. We got news in the Premier League. So we'll go over that. And we have, Apple Kick. Well, actually, Sean, if it was an Apple Kick, wouldn't it be a 909? Asking for a friend. You've got all the stuff in the Premier League. You got news with Chelsea. You got news with Spurs. We got matches today. Tomorrow, when Bart Keeler comes on at 10:30, we will gauge his level of nervousness for the matchup against Manchester City. There's a really cool article that kind of broke down what Pep Guardiola has done. Daniel Sakiri over at the Telegraph had a really good breakdown of what you're seeing from Manchester City with John Stones and Guardiola going back to Johan Cruyff's playbook. Really cool breakdown there from Daniel Sakiri. So that would be your required reading for the day as we get ready for Manchester City and Arsenal. Over at the Telegraph, we got happy transfer deadline day passing for those of you who celebrated in Major League Soccer. There were a couple of transactions that we can get into. Michael, we will get into where things are, and some of it is on the new CBS Sports Golazo network. So we'll get into that. We mentioned it yesterday, and as part of the launch of Golazo Network, they're focusing on 3 matches early on. I think they're going to be doing full coverage. We'll get into what Golazo wants to do as a part of it. But Tormenta and Sharp is going to be a part of their broadcast. And Jared, I was mentioning how today, tomorrow, Thursday, it's all going to be kind of off the rails a little bit. I know that's news. We got Open Cup. We got Premier League. We've got Italy. We got some fun stuff going on in Italy now. And happy transfer deadline day for those who celebrated. There is, how would we phrase it? Another check your sources element involving Atlanta United this morning?
Oh, we're not even going, man. We ain't even going to give it the time of day.
Okay. All right. There we go.
So, no, we're not even going to give it the time of day because you're going to see a lot of really stupid stuff, and it's going to cause a lot of insanity over the next, couple months with Atlanta United. You're going to see a lot of stupid stuff, citing stuff that doesn't exist. So more often than not, just don't give it the time of day. Carry on with your day.
Yes. So once again, remember, check your sources in this kind of stuff. You had
I know the Bird app's hard to use these days because it's kind of trickier now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just don't worry about it.
Yes. So you got that, but there's a lot of interesting stuff out of Italy for one reason or another. We'll go over where you can catch Open Cup stuff. It's some combination of Golazo Network, BR YouTube, and local, and we'll get into that this morning. So there's plenty to discuss. We can talk about Atlanta United if there's still stuff that's on the table. That we left over from yesterday. So literally, if there's anything on your mind as we got into it, because like I said, we got Open Cup, we got Premier League, we got Italy, and just when Juve thought that they were almost allegedly, possibly, maybe free and clear, not so fast, my friend.
Well, yeah, it seems like UEFA has decided to pick up the pieces of punishment where Italy has dropped the ball.
Yes. So this is not quite opening kickoff, but we'll go ahead and say that it's in opening kickoff territory. Brought to us by our friends over at Football Italia, football-italia.net. And our friend Apollo Hayes. Here's the first couple of sentences, and we'll go as far as we need to here. UEFA are reportedly preparing to punish Juve with exclusion from European competitions due to their alleged falsified capital gains. La Gazzetta dello Sport details how UEFA have been keeping a close eye on the Bianconeri's legal troubles over the last year, been carrying out their own investigation into the club's financial practices, receiving countless documents from the Turin Public Prosecutor's Office. Juve's appeal to CONI's Collegio di Garanzia against their 15-point deduction, partially successful, being temporarily annulled pending a new sporting trial, which is supposed to be next month. UEFA are optimistic that a legal decision will be made in Italy by the end of June, but are planning to move should things take longer than expected. From the article, what poses a real threat to Juve is financial fair play. Back in September 22, the club were fined €3.5 million by UEFA for violations of the rules. They signed various agreements allowing them to avoid a further €19.5 million fine. The agreements were based off balance sheets provided by Juve, the same documents now at the center of investigations by the Turin Public Prosecutor's Office and the FIGC. Should Juve fail to qualify for Champions League, Europa, or Europa Conference League, the urgency would be removed for UEFA, allowing them to wait for the Italian justice system. Be problematic for Juve, however, as a possible exclusion from competition could be delayed for 24 and 25. Should the old lady earn a spot in Europe, once again, likely before the end of July, start of August, exclusion from the competitions is a likely outcome due to the fact the plea deal back in September was based off these suspicious balance sheets. So UEFA picking up the pieces. Yes. So UEFA's picking up the pieces, and that's what we're staring at. Alex Pacine diving in early this morning with the help. And so once again, once things decide to load, I can actually let you know what's going on. But, that's the beauty of having all of the folks here in the Twitch pitch dialing us up and helping us out and letting us know what's going on. So Spurs official. So let's see what's going on with Spurs official this morning. And I imagine that no, that's not.
So we got news from the team you're playing this weekend.
Okay. So that's always a good thing. Okay. So, all right.
What Spursiness has befallen us?
The players have a message for the fans who went to Newcastle on Sunday. Quote, as a squad, we understand your frustration, your anger. It wasn't good enough. We know words aren't enough in situations like this, but believe us, a defeat like this hurts. We appreciate your support home and away. And with this in mind, we would like to reimburse fans with the cost of their match tickets from St. James's Park. We know this doesn't change what happened on Sunday, and we'll give everything to put things right against Manchester United Thursday evening, when, again, your support will mean everything to us. Together and only together can we move things forward. So if you went to the match and you
may be entitled to financial compensation.
Yes. And time to get Ken Nugent or Morgan and Morgan or the John Foy, the strong arm, to help you out in this case. If you have a receipt, then you can get reimbursed for your time and efforts. And you know that there are going to be folks that will sit there and say, I want more than just the ticket. I want my transportation. I want room and board. Somebody's going to go in that. Somebody's going to go in that direction.
Oh, yeah. If you give a mouse a cookie. That being said, they really went for, you may be entitled to financial compensation for this game you suffered through. Cool. I mean, if the players want to do that, that's fine. I have no problem with that. My favorite part of that statement, John, you'll remember this. The first part of that statement reads really dangerously close to the Tampa Bay Lightning one that they put out like a year before they won back-to-back cups. They're like, we're mad too. It's okay. We know you don't want words. And then they went and won 2 straight cups while bending the roster rules and the salary rules of NHL beyond belief. Not that I'm bitter about, the Lightning existing, much less doing well.
True. Ricky Ricardo is absolutely correct. Alexander Shannara has entered the chat. Call me, Tottenham.
Who was? Oh, Neil Flitt. Neil Flitt was the other one who was one of the. He had a billboard around town and then got popped for for misusing the funds that he was winning for people. and I believe he got disbarred and sent to jail.
That is true. That is true.
Whew.
Yes.
You
So
may be Tottenham fans. You may be entitled to financial compensation, which might be the Spursiest thing I've heard in a while.
yes, and Will is spot on this morning. Been hit. Call Flit. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Call me, Alabama.
I'd rather not.
Oh man. Well, yeah. Call me, Atlanta. That's the Shannara hook in all of his ads.
Yeah.
See, and Sean with the legitimate question here, and we go a step further backward in all of this, and we still haven't hit opening kickoff. You guys went down this road, and it was a road that we were going to be going down eventually, but Spurs helped us out here with the team being mad. Sean, is at the end of the day, how does Daniel Levy continue at the club? Well, I think
the same way Dan Snyder did with the Washington Commies for years.
Mm-hmm. If you're in charge,
because you can't fire ownership.
You can't fire ownership. And for Daniel Levy to make a statement on social media about the status of Spurs, that should once again speak volumes as to where things are. For Daniel Levy to make a statement on social media, then the next day you have the team come out with a paragraph on social media. Yes, they're all mad. What are you going to do about it? Don't know. And it got to the point where you decided, and probably rightfully so, that you sacked Christian Stellini after losing 6-1, down 5-0 in 29, you're down 3-0 after 9, 5-0 at the break. And Daniel Levy accepted responsibility for the crisis. Second managerial change in less than a month. And it's Ryan Mason now. So
yeah, the Brazilians think you're being a little too quick with your trigger on your managers there, Levy.
Yes. And so you look at Daniel Levy replacing Stellini with Ryan Mason 29 days after naming Stellini to take over for Antonio Conte. Levy, once again, also remember, you lose Fabio Paratici, who was forced to stand down after his appeal for a worldwide ban from football over alleged malpractice was rejected. Sacking Stellini before the match against Manchester United. Manchester United is now doing due diligence on trying to figure out if they should chase after Harry Kane next year. And so you have, all right, so here's the numbers.
I remember standing on a beach.
Yeah.
In South Georgia. I remember standing on a beach in South Georgia / South Carolina doing a show, flexing on everybody one time. During the Harry Kane saga, being like, you're going to not sell him now. And you're not, like, the price tag at the time, they're like, we're not going to sell him. Like, the price tag's never going to be this good. The price tag's never going to be this good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to compete for a title anytime soon.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna be flying around. We'll probably
the Nashville news was what I was going to get to in a minute, but then you had to bring up the fact that Spurs are giving their fans entitled compensation.
Yes,
that kind of dominated my brain for a bit there. We'll get to Nashville in a second.
Yes, yeah, well, and Alex obviously will get into the Guardian piece and get into that, but because this was part and parcel to everything going on this morning. Yesterday was once again transfer deadline day, and congratulations to all of you who observe it as such. CJ Sapong and Lucas McNaughton, principals in a deal involving two teams. Toronto FC have acquired CJ Sapong from Nashville.
CJ Sapong, Toronto needs a striker so badly. It's funny.
And so they, in exchange for Lucas McNaughton and $125,000 in GAM, $75,000 in GAM add-ons, 17 goals, 10 assists with Nashville. McNaughton gives Nashville another center back after the Depew injury. Lucas McNaughton, in his last two matches, has had the absolute description of the no good, very bad day. I mean, literally, it could be Lucas McNaughton and the no good, very bad day. considering he's had, I think he's had 2 own goals. He's had 1 own goal in each of the last 2 matches for Toronto FC. And, it could have been a lot worse. But Toronto FC, for getting rid of an issue at the back, trading him to Nashville and Gary Smith. And
the team that frankly needs to get back to what they were defensively, because they're not there right now.
Correct. And so Ricky is so you're telling me we're done playing Toronto and Nashville won't have CJ Sapong. That is true.
Yeah, you dodged that bullet.
True. That is absolutely true. But Gary Smith, he's going to be very, very pleased about bringing a player of Lucas's talent and ability, and it's going to be very, very interesting to have him integrate at the back.
Look, if anybody can fix him, it might be Gary.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to deal with CJ Sapong just bulldozing you through the box on like long balls, like you're a high school team in Georgia.
Yes, exactly.
Where they just play. Where if it's not Hani Mukhtar, we're playing for long balls in the box.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing for long throw-ins.
Yes,
we're in the quarterfinals of a high school playoff.
Yeah. Yesterday, once again, for those of you who were not able to keep up with transactions, there was a lot of talk about Paul Arriola possibly moving from one place to another. That did not happen.
Oh, Dallas told everybody to kick rocks. I love it.
Galaxy acquired U.S. Youth International defender Mauricio Cuevas from Club Bruges, product of LAG's Academy. 21 USL Championship apps for Los Dos, left for Belgium in 22. You also had DC United finalizing a deal this time yesterday, trying to bring in Christian Dahomey from the Whitecaps. Whitecaps would get allocation money. Dahomey as a winger, 17 and 12 in 103 matches for Vancouver. Crew picked up Malte Amundsen from NYCFC for AM. And Amundsen was a part of the back line for NYCFC, adding him after the Will Sands injury. RSL, now this one was an interesting one. RSL finalizing the deal to acquire Andre Shinyashiki and the Shinya Shimmy from Charlotte in exchange for winger Justin Miram.
So now we get to see Miram.
And so that was
I'm mad.
I know.
I don't want my favorite Iraqi son coming to have to play against Atlanta. Yeah. I'm mad about it.
So all of this stuff was being discussed yesterday. Shinyashiki coming in off of the bench was a spark. All you have to do is ask Jess and Willie P, because of Willie P's pipes last season when Shinyashiki would come into the match. So there's some stuff to keep an eye on within Major League Soccer, and Galaxy signing a Costa Rican midfielder, Rapids waving a forward, Revolution signing Ben Sweat to help at the back. Inter Miami signing an Ecuadorian midfielder. So there was stuff that was wandering around yesterday. But yeah, the CJ Sapong for Lucas McNaughton, and you end up with, I'm sure that Bob Bradley after the last 2 matches for Toronto was like, oh my God, get him out of here. And you found a way. Now Sean, it would, Ted Lasso might help Spurs. You never know. So
Spurs need more than that, and Spurs also need. And I like, because people keep asking, like, why have you made all these terrible hires? Because the same thing I've said yesterday and said before. Just because someone is rich does not mean they are smart or very good at what they do necessarily.
Right.
Sometimes you fall into a manhole cover, and the manhole cover has gold on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Levy made his money. Daniel Levy didn't necessarily make his money making managerial hires.
Mm-mm.
Just because he's rich and he owns a team doesn't mean he's the best person to be making those decisions.
Correct.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff. Let's see. And to Sean's point, what is Ryan Mason going to do? And this is in all caps. This is how fired up Sean is about this. What is Ryan Mason going to do? The team is still the team. I'm sorry, they're terrible. He apologized for yelling in all caps. I mean,
so let's ask the question we ask every year. Because do you sell Kane and or Son?
I think so, yeah.
Because congratulations, they are now the John Collins of Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
Do you sell them now? Like, what does it take to just be like, you know what? None of this is working. I've gone through more managers than a dysfunctional Brazilian club, one of whom I tried to bring in could not work here because he had what amounts to a show cause from UEFA.
Yeah.
Actually, from FIFA.
Yeah, from FIFA.
He had a FIFA show cause.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a bigger show cause than John Calipari ever had, and that man crippled 2 programs on the way out the door.
Yeah.
Don't forget UMass, folks.
Yeah. Paratici pretty much. Yeah. So, and Alex is good. They're terrible. He's pulling quotes now from Sean. They're terrible as they sit in fifth. Sean says that Levy is equal to Jerry Jones. You know, I mean, that's a fairly apt comparison.
But the thing is, like, they're not like. It's kind of like, yeah, you're sitting in fifth. What you'll get European ball out of that. But will you win anything? And is it kind of like being what the Hawks were? You're not going to climb over City necessarily with what you got.
No.
You're not going to climb over Arsenal as they try to kill their fans week in and week out.
Like
it's an impressive act.
Bart will be here tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss that.
A good friend of mine's an Arsenal fan too, and he's like, I can't live like this. Texted me after the game.
Shut everything down and go
in
the corner.
But
like, I can't touch
it. Can you climb over those teams as you are constructed? Is a manager the missing piece? No, not the 3 or 4 managers you've gone through since the last Harvest Moon. But is a manager the missing piece? I don't know. Do you say, you know what? 1 or 2 of those guys would give us a lot of money with which we could bring in a different manager and maybe build this however they want.
Christians, and this is from Ben Jacobs. Stellini, 28 days. Spurs have now had 3 managers, including 2 interims since late March. Since March 18, they have 1 win, shipped 14, and conceded 3 90th minute or later goals, costing them 6 points. Chelsea, 4, Spurs 3 in a shootout. Chelsea, 7 managers in the dugout this season for sides that finished 3rd and 4th in the last campaign. 23 losses between them in the 22-23 season between Chelsea and Spurs. That's what you're staring at right now with them. And the question that, no doubt, Stellini was,
still in short term. Yeah, they're still in striking distance of a UCL place, which, God, considering the amount of money they have on that team, they better be.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of like argue a little Hawksy about this because you're good enough to be in those positions. You're good enough to make the playoffs in American sports. But no one's picking you to win it.
Well, and this was the thought that was brought up on the coverage on NBC in their studio, and it was a debate between Tim Howard and Robbie Mustoe. How much of this is on the manager, and how much of this is on the players?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! It's not an individual blame thing. Like everybody is. This is you failed a group project, and each one of you found a way to screw this up. This wasn't like everybody did their job except somebody left their homework on the desk and one of the dogs ate it.
Mm-hmm.
No, this was everybody. Everybody forgot to go to the library.
And the question was brought up, and Robbie Mustoe made the point of, you have all of the previous managers that have been there for Spurs. All they have done basically is just beat the players up mentally. And Robbie was coming at it from the perspective of a player, obviously, because he's been a player in the Premier League, and so having seen these kinds of things, you've had managers and specifically the last few that have come in where, all right, so you go back to 2019, Jose Mourinho pretty much ished on them all. And it's like, you guys suck. You're not that great. And it's like I said, this is the point that Robbie was making. Nuno Espirito Santo basically neutered the entire offense when he was brought in, which I'm still trying to figure out why Nuno was brought in the first place, considering, and Sean, maybe, you can help in this analysis here. But yeah, Jose Mourinho comes in 2019. He's ishing all over the players. You guys aren't that great, all this kind of stuff. Nuno comes in, basically just neuters the entire offensive makeup of Spurs. Then Conte comes in, has the rant of all rants that he has about players who are selfish, not being a part of the team, all this kind of stuff. Then you go through, Stellini lasting less than a month, and now you're back to Ryan Mason for another caretaker part in this. Musty made the point that these players that have been there for the last 4 years that they've just been beaten down by the managers that Levy has hired. And here we go. Sean, Levy hired Nuno. Levy should have been fired then. And Sean is still in caps this morning with conversation in the Twitch pitch. Why you would hire Nuno Espirito Santo with the offense that you had in hand, with Kane and Son, literally, you had Kane and Son. So what do? You bring in Nuno, who is the pride and joy of the 1-0 mind-numbing win, or the goalless draw on the road. You could not have gone further against casting type. Mm-hmm. And then you come back around. You've whiplashed these players.
I mean, to be fair, it felt like you hired Jose just to say, you know what? We'll sacrifice everything for a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
It was, hey, man, this isn't going to be pretty. It might set us back in the future. But if it means I get to lift a trophy and get to stand on a stage and see some confetti fall, cool. Kind of felt like that's what you're doing, and it didn't work. Of course, it didn't work. It's just so Spursy.
Mm-hmm. The Columbus Crew deal with NYC over Malte Amundsen is now official. It's $400,000 in GAM. So I have the impression that these are going to be trickling in this morning. All of the stuff that we've been talking about, and Ricky bringing to the table. I had this one on the table, but I didn't know if it was going to be brought to the fore. ESPN FC mentioning that UEFA President Alexander Ceferin open to a discussion about playing significant Champions League games in the United States.
Then it's not the year.
It's not the Champions League. It's not the European Champions League if you're playing matches in the US, eh?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not the UEFA Champions League if you're playing the damn games in the United States.
It was an interview with Ceferin and Roger Bennett over at Men in Blazers. Wouldn't rule out holding part of the most watched annual football event in the world outside Europe. Quote,
I don't care what they have to say personally.
It's possible. Ceferin says
whatever.
It's possible. We started to discuss about that, but then one year it's World Cup, 2024 is Euro, this year's Istanbul, 24 in London, 25 in Munich, and after that, let's see, it's possible. It's possible. To me, that just sounds like that he was asked the question, and then he just decided to say something nice and kick the can down the road.
I look forward to y'all picking the most inconvenient place in the United States to do it to.
So let's see. If it's July, it's probably going to
Phoenix.
Yeah, I was going to say, what outdoor facility?
You're gonna play it where they do the Fiesta Bowl on the same turf.
Yes.
Basically, you're gonna have two European teams blow their knees out at once.
Oh, absolutely.
But the check will clear.
Oh, and exactly right. Yeah, and as Ricky says, money, meet, grab, shake hands, move on. Of course, that's what it is. Knicks, as we go back and forth from Spurs and everything. Knicks, the email from Levy was something else too. He says the responsibility lies with him, meaning Levy. However, this guy over here is out. It's like, you're done. It's like responsibility falls on me, but we're getting rid of the manager. We're getting rid of the caretaker.
Responsibility falls on me, but excuse me while I deflect everything.
Yeah, well, and Stellini to
what's Levy gonna do? Fire himself?
it's like we said. What's that conversation like? Levy sitting across the table. It's like, I'm going to sit behind the table and have a discussion with Daniel Levy. Daniel, you wander around. Yes, you wander back. You're fired. You wander back. What? And you just have this conversation with Daniel Levy running around a table. Coco, we are still waiting for La Liga to have the league match inside the United States, but all the legalities have kind of gotten in the way about that. Coco, yes, this is pretty much the way that it is. Quote, the responsibility is mine, but that guy over there is fired. Not wrong. That is exactly what this is. Oh, God. I mean, and I feel so sorry for Spurs.
We're waiting for a lot of things to happen, y'all, in the sense that we're waiting for a lot of discussions about such and such is going to play in the United States, because that's just the hook you do, in the same way that for the longest time, until they actually moved the Rams again, it was the constant thing in the NFL too. Well, if I don't get a new stadium, we might have to move this over to. We might have to take this
Raiders to
over
Vegas.
to Los Angeles. I have to go to L.A. That'd be tough, guys, wouldn't it? Or putting a basketball team back in Seattle, like sickos that they are. Thunder should have never left. Or the Thunder should never have become the Thunder.
No, that's true.
The Sonics should have never left in the first place. Whatever.
Yes. Thank you, Les Alexander.
It's at this point, it's just like a how can we possibly tease that we would give a bunch of money to take a bunch of money that we would go to the United States to do something. No, you're not. Just stop.
Well, but that's the beauty of it. What you do is you sit there and you put that information out there. But what folks Will, don't even get me started about Atlanta Spirit, because Atlanta Spirit down here would be that would be anger and vitriol. And
if y'all want like a quick like a 10-minute hit on this, a tree on YouTube did a really good like Thrashers recap kind of thing, where he is a Pittsburgh guy and mentioned we were always kind of told the Thrashers just they sucked, the fans sucked, all that, and he did a little it's not a super deep dive, but it's a dive into the existence of the Thrashers, about why it worked, why it didn't work, that kind of thing.
Well, and
the screw ups of the Atlanta Spirit group, like the Spirit group saying that the Thrashers were hemorrhaging money as they gave Joe Johnson a comically big deal.
Yes, that too. Burned once again. Tottenham should have stayed at White Hart Lane. Yeah, when they built an NFL stadium, which is ugly, and then they had no money for players, I knew they were doomed. And you also did that during a pandemic. And you also, how do you not have a title sponsor for that stadium right now?
You know how you could get money for players? You got two of them you could sell.
How do you not have a title sponsor for that stadium? Right now, it's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
I don't know. I mean, is there a situation in which maybe they don't? I mean, Occam's razor, again, Shave Bailey, please. They don't want one. He wants it to be like pure. We don't need a title. You get this at Ibrox and Rangers, and Celtic does the same thing with Celtic Park. Like,
right.
It's like a hollowed ground kind of thing that teams do sometimes.
Because you want the purity of the team identity. You don't want a sponsor name on your new stadium. One of those kind of things.
I guess. And yeah, Emilio, it's it's a crude name, but Urinating Tree is the YouTuber. He's a sports YouTuber. It can be very funny. It can also be exhausting. He just, to Ricky's point, he just put one out about the Penguins, because the first time in a Possum's age that the Penguins haven't made the playoffs. So.
Yeah.
Also, he is a Pittsburgh guy through and through. He is full on Yinzer.
Yes. And well, it is
his tone of voice is not Yinzer. He doesn't speak with the heavy Yinzer accent, which is more's the pity, because my God, it's what made Dave Wanstad the perfect Pitt head coach.
Yeah. So Sean is suggesting Cirque du Soleil field at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Well, it is a Cirque.
P.T. Barnum Stadium.
It is. It is. So, I mean, it's and according to Michael, they only can have something like 6 non-Spurs events annually. How is this a moneymaker?
Who wrote this contract?
What are you people doing? How can you do this? You don't have a sponsor. You can only have a handful of events outside of Spurs-related things. How do you anticipate making money on this building? What are you, some kind of crazy person? I mean, come on. And Michael Valverde, let's face it. Since Darren Eales left for Atlanta, the Spurs have been mismanaged. Just look at how he set up Atlanta United. Now Newcastle. So Darren Eales.
I don't know, man. I got enough headaches from the fact that there are people that hold him responsible for Atlanta's last few bad years who decided that it was him and Bocanegra together. Because man, I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh, I have a headache.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is what happens when you're running around. You're running around in circles trying to to sit at what's going on. And Tom Russo, being the Everton fan, looking at what's going on with Spurs from their position in the table right now, Tom is like, sit down and shut up.
Tom, I'm still laughing at the fact that Pittsburgh had Ron Hextall after he destroyed the Flyers, but at least he had the courtesy to do the same to the Penguins.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Because the Flyers are always my go-to whenever things are going well in Philadelphia sports. I'm like, guys, having a good time, huh?
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Or when like they get their heart broken. Like, again, Philadelphia. If Philadelphia sports fans are ever in a bad mood, don't tell them they don't have an excuse. They lost 3 championships in the span of like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Philly fans have all the excuse in the world to be really salty.
Yeah.
The only saving grace is they don't have to worry about the Flyers hurting them because I'm not sure they can.
Yeah, not anymore anyway. Also going on, so today in the Premier League, it's a nail-biting day for Knicks. He's the late game. Wolves and Crystal Palace at 2:30. Crystal Palace is going to try and figure out a way to sign Wilfred Zaha to a deal that basically increases his salary by almost half, or a little more than half, around $200,000 a week if they can keep him. Crystal Palace is a dog on the road at the Molineux at a plus 156.
You say you don't have to worry about the Falcons hurting you, but the draft is Thursday.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And you know as well as I do, they're about to use the 8th pick on a running back.
Oh, yeah. Instead of having Algier, just instead of having him.
I love Bijan Robinson, to be fair, but I'm very nervous about spending it on the 8th overall pick.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily trade back because he's probably gone at 10.
Yeah.
So you can only trade back so far and still get him. I don't know what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. You've got 245 Villa and Fulham, and there were a lot of folks who were looking at the table, and we'll get into the table and just where Villa is right now. Villa is a home favorite at a minus 125. Fulham right now is north of plus 340. Leeds and Leicester's your late game big one down at the bottom. Leeds is a plus 134 at Ellen Road. They need the points badly. Knicks is on the road at a plus 202.
Will Levis is the only bad pick in this draft. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Kentucky's just catching strays.
Wow. And your draw's a plus 258. So here's the situation as it stands. Manchester City, 2 matches in hand, backed by 5. Tomorrow they can close the gap to 2 with a win, and they still would have a match in hand. Newcastle's at 59 points ahead of Manchester United on goal difference. Manchester United, though, has a match in hand. Spurs right now are in 5th. They are at 53 points. Villa, same number of matches played, 51 points. So with a win, they can jump Spurs and get into that Europa League spot. Liverpool right now is in 7th at 50. Brighton's at 49. Then there's a gap to group number 2, Fulham, Brentford. Chelsea right now in 11th at 39 points. They've lost 3 of 4. Crystal Palace is at 37. West Ham and Wolves have kind of distanced themselves a little bit. 34 points each. West Ham is up on goal difference, -8 to -17. Bournemouth has a little bit of breathing room in group number 3 at 33 points. They've won 3 of 5, by the way. Then the fun starts. 5 points, 5 teams. Leeds, who've lost 4 of 5 at 29 points. Leicester, with a win last time out, they're out of the relegation zone, snapping a 4-game losing streak. They're at 28 points, ahead of Everton on goal difference. Nottingham Forest is at 27 points, and their goal difference is horrendous, so they're going to have to get out on points at minus 33. And Southampton right now at 24 points. They drew last time out, so that's what you're staring at when it comes to so that's what it comes down to right now with your standings. And apparently, John Joe Shelby got mad for being told that he was supposed to sit with Nottingham Forest. You're sitting there going, really, dude? Probably the best thing for you right now would be to sit. Yeah, John Joe Shelby ordered to stay at home after angry reaction to being named on Forest bench by John Percy at the Telegraph. The midfielder took umbrage with being named as a substitute against Liverpool. Steve Cooper told him to stay home. Stay home last weekend after he was furious after being named a substitute. Excluded from the matchday squad following a confrontation after a team meeting. Angry after being told he would be starting on the bench for the second match in a row, carrying a slight knock in the calf, prepared to make himself available. Reacting badly to team selection, Cooper instructed him not to travel. So you're sitting at home. And so now 6 matches left. You got to get out on points. 30 signings for Nottingham Forest. So the idea is still possible that Forest could have more signings than points in the Premier League. 30 signings, 27 points.
That's a feat.
I mean, and your owner is Evangelinos Marinakos. Let me get the details on this guy.
Just so we're clear, that's an Olympic level feat you're pulling off.
Yeah, and now the owner for Nottingham Forest, he has a bit of a past, and I'm trying to Evangelinos Marinakos. Okay, one is he's got most of his money in the shipping business. Owner of Olympiacos, owner of Forest. City councilor, president of the Super League of Greece.
Super League.
Awards and distinctions, personal life, philanthropy. Okay, so controversy for Marinakos.
Can we import more Greek players, by the way? Because that seems to be going well.
Oh, yeah. Alex, I will try to find the article of biggest EPL flops and where they take a swipe at Sam Fender and say that Isak is a waste. The man who now has one of the best goals per minute in the league. All right, 2011, Olympiacos beats Panathinaikos in a game with a controversial officiating. After the game, player had a wrangle with the president of Olympiacos. Beaten by Olympiacos, fans stated he was going to appeal to UEFA. In case of Cisse and Marinakos went to the Greek courts, Marinakos was found not guilty. Also, he was part of a Greek football scandal back in 2015, too. Acquitted in the relation to the Koryopolis match-fixing investigation that had begun back in 2011. Here we go. This was the fun part. A Greek drug trafficking investigation that started in 2014 regarding Noor 1, a ship owned by Pantelis Kalafatis, was investigated by the Greek Coast Guard, DEA, and Greek judicial authorities, culminated in the conviction of various individuals and 2 arrest warrants for Turkish nationals. In March of 2018, the owner of Nottingham Forest was charged with drug trafficking. Accusations against him described as
being an overachiever. I don't see the problem here.
Yeah, following an investigation after the tanker was intercepted at the Greek port of Piraeus, carrying 2 tons of heroin in 2014. According to the jailed co-owner of the boat, Efthymios Yannisakis, the vessel had in fact carried an additional ton of heroin worth $70 million unloaded on the island of Crete and trafficked to mainland Europe before Greek authorities managed to intercept the rest of the cargo. So it had 3 tons of heroin on it. They offloaded 1 ton. Judicial Council of the Piraeus lower court touched on all related issues and ruled the prosecutor's order was not justified. Nottingham Forest FC chair Nicholas Randall wrote an open letter to supporters reaffirming his support for Evangelos Marinakos. He confirmed the matter was under investigation, but there is no charge against Marinakos and no prosecution is in progress. In January 2021, the judge came to the conclusion that there was no evidence implicating Marinakos and therefore concluded his investigation. So other than match fixing, in 2014 and 15 in Greece. Secretly recorded phone conversations involving sports officials, including Marinakis. The president of Olympiacos and close associates approach tried to use policemen, judges, politicians, and other powerful figures for their own ends as a part of the planning and establishment of a criminal organization. Vindicated in the Greek Supreme Court in 2018. So the overachiever, Evangelos Marinakis, right now is still on path to have more transfers than points in the Premier League. And at the bottom of the table. Let's see. Yes. And KFC. Yes, it's for personal use. It's not for trafficking. KFC points for all of the Greek pronunciation.
To y'all, I mean, look, to the point about the George Costanza boy, there's a lot of soccer scandals on this planet that read like if Larry David had written them as a plot point for George Costanza, you'd have been like, that's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
George Costanza, in a different time, on a different continent with Seinfeld existing, George would have been a fantastic fall guy for a famous soccer club.
Uh-huh.
Like, you could tell me that you set the show in Italy and George works for Juventus, and like the whole thing ends with George getting on an unregistered plane or boat to flee with a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is absolutely true.
The Dare Pledge. Jesus Christ, what year is it?
Uh-huh. Of course. I mean, and I wish I had the dramatic music to go about this. Another minor deal has come across from our friends at Toronto FC. They have acquired defender Jaime Mabika in exchange for Gam from our friends at Inter Miami FC. So these deals yesterday that we were talking about, it looks like they're trickling through this morning. Through 23, options for 24 and 25. In exchange, Toronto sent $100,000 and 24 Gam as a part of the deal. Inter Miami will also receive up to an additional $100,000 in conditional if performance-based metrics are met and retain a sell-on percentage for Mabika. He was originally selected in the 26th overall selection in the 21 Super Draft. Spent time with the Fort Lauderdale CF, otherwise now known as Inter Miami CF2, and spent time in USL League One. First team contract back in 22, and so 6'6", 214. And Mabika has been acquired from Inter Miami CF in exchange for Gam. So yeah, I think that all of these deals that we were talking about are going to be official today, as transfer deadline day has worked their way through, and all of the stuff that we were talking about. Does Justin Meara make his way to Charlotte, and does the Shinya Shimmy work its way back out to the Riot? So we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff. We mentioned Chelsea, and it looks like Frank Lampard is going to remain in charge until the end of the season, despite the alleged imminent, possibly, probably, maybe deal to bring in Mauricio Pochettino. And it appears that, let's see, Frank Lampard was asked about it, and he didn't really talk about it. He's just like, nope, I'm not going to talk about those rumors and things. And so, you know, what y'all are doing is what y'all are doing, and I'm not talking about it. He also said Reece James, Mason Mount also likely to miss the rest of the season. Reece is unavailable probably for the season. Mason's the same. Reece has a hamstring. Mason's carrying a pelvic injury. Mount has been trying, but will have minor surgery and a 4-week recovery. So, according to our friends at Talk Sport, it looks like Pochettino will be the new Chelsea manager. And Alex Crook had a long soundbite that was transcribed into paragraph form that I'm not going to read the whole thing about. But, yeah, so it looks like Pochettino is going to be the new manager at Chelsea. Rich, I would love this idea on transfer deadline days or any important days. Do like Sky does. Have reporters hanging outside the training grounds on deadline days.
Do you have enough reporters for Apple to do that?
Well, I mean, if we staffed it, we could probably have a lot of folks that we knew. That would be great. Yeah, and so Pochettino is coming to Atlanta and MBS after all. Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah, and Emilio, yes, that is the other part in all of this that we don't know. We don't know the status on Giacomakis. We don't know the status on Westberg. And that going into the Memphis 901 match tomorrow and going into the Nashville match on the weekend. And that's it's going to be interesting to see how it all lays out. But, Jarrett, what we've seen from Machope, and his continued growth, I mean, he's definitely played himself into being a part of the equation up top if you don't have Yorgos Giacomakis for any number of minutes.
Well, I mean, if it's Open Cup, especially coming up, I'm Eric Lopez. Eric Lopez played well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Eric Lopez might be ahead of him on that totem pole for this game in particular. And I think they're settled with Miguel Berry right now because Machope Chol has become kind of the surprise 10. Didn't expect that, but here we are nevertheless.
Yeah. Also, and this is
Jason's at most media stuff for Atlanta United, so keep an eye out for him.
Yep.
Listen for the Kangle, it's fine. It's like finding Samuel L. Jackson.
Right, but their press opportunity really doesn't kick in until like about 12 or 12:30.
Yeah, but they get to watch practice.
Yeah, you get to watch practice and see what's going on. So obviously keep an eye on your sources and see what it looks like there. We got, and I'm not going to give it the breaking news sounder, but it is breaking news. DC United's Mohana Jezi arrested in Sweden on suspicion of assault. He has now been suspended by Major League Soccer. Jeezy's in custody in Sweden on suspicion of 2 counts of assault, according to Swedish prosecutors. Born in Sweden, plays for Iraq's national team, suspended by Major League Soccer pending an investigation by the league and Swedish authorities. Arrested on Saturday after the second of the alleged assaults, both of which took place in Stockholm, according to the Swedish prosecution authority. He was on approved leave from DC United at the time of the arrest. The first alleged assault happened in December. No charges have been brought against Jeezy. There was a detention hearing on Monday in Stockholm's district court, ruled that Jeezy can be detained until May 8. By that time, a charge must be brought to the court or the case will be dropped, quoting Major League Soccer. DC United will remain in close contact with MLS, the MLSPA, and Swedish authorities during the investigation. Signed for DC United at the end of last year, playing in Sweden in various clubs from 15 to 22. Sustained an injury against CF Montreal on April 16. So defender Mohana Jeezy is in custody in Sweden, and he has been suspended by Major League Soccer. So that's
and Emilio, if you want to talk about Barry's crash, it's not about Atlanta. Barry wasn't good last year for DC either. Again, you were trying to figure out
which one you were getting.
Idea, were you getting the guy who was a super sub in Columbus, or the guy who didn't produce in DC? And like that was what you were trying to figure out. It wasn't like he was putting out huge numbers in DC and came here and stopped. Like he struggled in DC last year. This isn't like a thing like he just showed up in Atlanta and is struggling to score goals. Like he struggled last year in DC as well.
Yeah. So
this isn't like a random. It's not like if you had like an in-prime Joseph and he just stopped scoring goals and stopped putting away chances. So
yeah, no, it is a situation with Miguel Berry is that what you're looking for is output from a reserve and possibly a spot starter. But once again, you're looking at how he performs during the week, who's performing better than he is, and if it turns out that it's Machope Chol, then Machope Chol has gotten ahead of Berry, unless it's a certain situation where you feel more comfortable with Miguel Berry coming off the bench. So Berry was brought in for the idea of multiple competitions, and remember, we talked about this pretty much all week. This week, we talked about it all season because of the way that you assemble a roster with depth. You're looking at multiple competitions, and you're hoping that the individuals that you bring in will help you out in these multiple competitions in the roles that you want them for, with priorities going in certain directions. So,
and as far as Tyler Wolff is concerned, man, Tyler Wolff was one of the chief offenders of disappearing in that game in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tyler. I think he's got really good technical skill, but he disappeared in that game in that massacre in Columbus.
Yeah.
He's got to kind of fight his way back into it. We'll see.
Yeah, and Michael, to your question, once again, you're trying to figure out which Miguel Berry you were getting, and can you have him come in certain situations off the bench? Can you have him come in and help you help defend, run out the clock, those kinds of things, create chances late if you need to with a fresh set of legs, that kind of thing. He's not a starter in this current environment in Major League Soccer. If you need for him to be, then you're probably looking at something in some combination of Chol and Berry up top. And right now, Machop Chol has passed him by when it comes to performance on the practice pitch and in games. And so that's where we are. Right now, I'd safe to say that at least in a week-to-week element, that Machop Chol has passed some folks by and is getting those playing minutes. And you're getting a healthy Machop Chol because, Jarrett, when we were talking to Gonzalo Pineda after the match on the weekend, he admitted it's like, you didn't get Machop a lot last year because Machop wasn't healthy. And now that he is, you're seeing the kind of individual that he can be with him being, and he was put on the wing against Chattanooga, I want to say, in the preseason matchup in Chattanooga, and having that kind of presence on the left in a match against Chattanooga, now having him up top late. I mean, he's causing problems because of his skill set and because of his body type. He's causing problems for folks.
Yeah, he's healthy. He's able to contribute, and he's full of confidence right now. I don't know how they'll line up tomorrow night. That remains to be seen because I wouldn't be surprised if you mix it up and you see like a Johnny Fortune get out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Thiago Almada get out there as well. Like he comes off in the 70th minute the other day, give him a little bit of rest. See Almada get out there because you'd like to look again. You're taking Open Cup seriously. You're not punting on it. You're mixing everything up.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that you're going to see him, and you'd like to just. I'd like to think that you're just going to try and get over this hill because Memphis will be tricky because they didn't start the year great, but I think they were undefeated in 4 straight now. They're going to be potentially a tricky out.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to play with the ball. They're going to want to counter press you if you turn them over, or if they're on the attack and you turn them over, they're going to want to counter press you.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta's going to have to be patient how they deal with this. More patient than they were against Chicago. We'll see.
Yeah, and Coco bringing up both Bill.
You might see Luke Brennan as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to what Gonzalo Pineda does when it comes to the faith in the younger players, and he loves what he's seeing out of a Johnny Fortune and seeing a Johnny Fortune grow. Noah Cobb, the same thing. Luke Brennan, the same thing. And it would not surprise me if those guys have an integral part in this match against Memphis 901 tomorrow. And it will be interesting to see that you're kind of playing in a mirror a little bit. And you have the former Atlanta United 2 elements that are attached with Stephen Glass, with Philip Goodrum, with Laurent Kisiadou. Luis Fernando, I think, is still there. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bit of a mirror image that you're going to be staring at in this match tomorrow. And it will be very, very interesting to see what Memphis 901 brings to the table. And like I said, this is not going to be one of those where you're going to sit there and go, oh yeah. No, it's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. And it's gonna be an interesting test, and it's gonna be a tough out, as you say. It's gonna be a fun one. And how much longer are you with us here?
Not at all.
Okay, so then
this is
I was gonna say before you go, goalkeeper situation. I know folks were wondering about. No news from Westberg, but you've got Clement Diop, you've got Vicente Reyes, who is doing well in MLS Next Pro and who did well in USL Championship last year. So
I think it's Diop I think it's Diop tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because you're now on your third string goalkeeper, I think you want to give him as much time as you can. We know we played with the twos earlier this year. If it was a normal situation, maybe it's Westberg. Maybe if everybody's healthy, maybe it's Westberg in this game too. With Diop being forced in as the third goalkeeper, until we know what Westbrook's situation is, I would think it's Diop starting tomorrow with Reyes on the bench, which would be cool because Reyes has taken some jumps in the last year. So good for him. He'll earn himself. I think he absolutely earns himself a bench in this one.
No doubt.
And going forward, potentially. I don't know. Was it Guerra, who they brought in as well?
Sebastian Guerra was the backup keeper on the weekend, So,
and the other one to keep in mind, y'all, is Justin Garces is still recovering from ACL injury. At least that's what keeps appearing on the sheet. I think it's one of those things where he didn't necessarily have to have surgery because I don't think there was one ever announced.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad enough for surgery, but one of those where you have to stay off of it. So that's where you're at.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
Bye. That's Jared Smith. And Jared hanging out. And so since we are in the hour mark, it is that time where if I can find my music and get us to there, I put it at 15, so we'll see what happens as we read a promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, it's a Lemonize service. Lemonize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that these days, offering a very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard, you take that masking agent out. You spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem like our friends at the Lemonize service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place that you need to go is their website. This is where I grab a pen. Lemonize.com, so it's ELIMINIZE.com, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your problem. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH for your Tuesday thoughts, and there's a lot of them. As there should be. And we mentioned what's going on in the Premier League. And you've got folks who are interim managers, and I mean, legitimately. All right, so getting back to the Chelsea thing real quick. And Coco, I think you're square. I think you're square on here, both of these. Reyes will get a homegrown deal eventually. Just matters if we can make an MLS roster spot for him. And then Coco, if Garces wasn't hurt, it'd be him for the backup spot, but Reyes seems ready for the jump, considering what he and Justin Garces were last year in USL Championship. Wouldn't be a surprise. All right, so if you are a caretaker manager, if you're an interim head coach, and if you are looking, if you're looking at, if you're looking at something, you're the interim guy, and Trent Krim from the Independent, old Trent Krim, or the rest of the group before Trent Krim season 3. If you're that guy and you're going to ask, if you're going to ask a caretaker manager, so what do you think about the talk about the new guy? What are you going to say? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to him coming in here. Well, I mean, no, Will, there's no spoilers. I'm just saying that if you were in the Chelsea press conference room, just if you were a caretaker manager, just as a rule, and you had a reporter ask you, what do you think about the high-priced dude that is linked to take over your job? What would you say? Yeah, I'm looking forward to the guy taking over my gig. I'm tired of putting up with all you guys and all this crap. Or you put it over and go, well, no, I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the new high-priced guy that's being rumored and alleged that it's going to be his gig soon. No, I mean, why? I feel like Ross all of a sudden. Why? Why are you asking that question? I mean, I know that these days that you can stare at something and you want to have the question asked so you can write it, so you can have the soundbite, so you can have the quote. But once again, how many times these days do you sit there and go, I think I'll ask this question, knowing that his response is going to be what it is. I'm going to ask it anyway, in case he says something wildly different. So whatever reporter goes to ask Frank Lampard, so what do you think about Pochettino coming to Chelsea? If I'm Frank Lampard, I mean, come on. What am I going to say? Unless I'm really tired of all y'all's ish, that it's going to be part of the, it's like, no, I'm not going to answer that question. Well, and Will, to your point, Will says, I mean, he was the interim senior patrol leader in your Boy Scout troop for about 2 months, couldn't wait for the new elections and the takeover. But if you had been asked, legitimately, when you were interim senior patrol leader, if you had been asked, so what do you think about the new guys? Would you have legitimately said, if they had in your Boy Scout troop, if they'd had a press conference and they were like, hey, Will, what do you think about the new elections? Are you going to sit there and say, I'm looking forward to finishing out my term. I'm having fun here as senior patrol leader with my Boy Scout troop. Just looking forward to seeing it come to, get to the end of the season with everything completed and everybody getting their goals and their badges. Or are you going to sit there and go, man, I'm waiting for this stuff to get over with? Which one would you do? If you had a reporter come up to you and stick a mic in your face from, say, CBS 19 and ask you about your remaining term as your interim senior patrol leader, what are you looking to accomplish here, knowing that the best patrol leader is going to be asked about it? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of it. I mean, if I'm Frank Lampard, even as much ish is going on at Chelsea, I mean, I get the idea of asking about it. I don't know why you would anticipate that you'd be getting a different answer, but that's just, yeah. So there you go. Now that we kind of pushed the opening kickoff, yes, the spirit of the second one, but in corporate language, exactly. And Abby, yes, depending on how the term has gone. All right, so since we blew past it in the first hour, here's hour number 2's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. It's just like, once again, if you use the code SoccerDownHere15, you get 15% off your purchase at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And thanks to everybody who has done so. And once again, they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, so opening kickoff got pushed to hour number 2 because of all the stuff we were talking about in hour number 1. Football Italia has been very, very busy for us today. Marco Landucci is at risk of being penalized after the FIGC heard him insult Luciano Spalletti following Napoli's 1-0 win in Turin. And this will get us into our Juve discussion. So Juve assistant coach Landucci is at risk of being penalized. Edged out a victory over them in the 90th minute on a goal by Raspadori. Result that allowed Spalletti's side to move one step closer to the Scudetto and first one in over 3 decades. Things have been tense at Juve, of course. Like I said, we'll get into that in just a second. The Guardian had a big deep dive, and Alex Basine read it, and there were a lot of other questions that you would ask leaving a particular discussion. As detailed by La Stampa, A sentence uttered by Landucci to Spalletti after Napoli's win over Juve was heard and recorded by 4 members of the FIGC prosecutor's office in Turin and could lead to a penalty for the assistant coach. Visibly furious by a number of refereeing decisions, took out his frustration on Spalletti. The two were about 3 feet apart, meter, when the Juve assistant coach said, okay, now there's a choice word in here, so you can go earmuffs for about 10 seconds, starting 3, 2, 1, now. Quote, bald bastard, I'll eat your heart out, end quote. 1, 2, 3. Spalletti did not react and headed for the Napoli dressing room. So you had an assistant coach basically calling a fellow coach a bald dude, and he said, I'll eat your heart out. Also noted in the report of the prosecutor's office was some territorial discrimination aimed at Napoli fans, which could also lead to a punishment. So you got that from assistant coaches going all over the place. Yeah, Modiflow, I think you're square with the depth chart. Gazan, Westberg, Jop, Reyes, Garces, Guerra. No surprises. I think you're right on. But, yeah, so you got that. You got coaches calling other coaches bald astards. So there you go. That's your opening kickoff, and you could get charged for it. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth initiatives thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And, yes, Abby is going to come over here and help fix the QR codes on both the Eliminize sign and the one that we have in the computer. All right, so Juve. And we'll get into Open Cup and we'll get into the other stuff that's going on today. And we'll find out where to watch it and what else is going on, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid. Tobias Jones had a deep dive, and I mean it is a large piece over at The Guardian. So this would be another part of your requested reading for the day. Question posed by Jones. Is the trouble at Juve symptomatic of a deeper rot in world football? He mentions the docking of points, mentions them being in Turin. So once again, recapping the deal with the transfer saga. In 2021, the regulatory body overseeing Italian football raised concerns with the FIGC, Italian Football Association, about 62 player transfers between clubs in Italy and abroad. 42 involved Juve, so 2/3. Clubs accused of having relied on a system whereby 2 clubs swap players for exactly the same amount and magically improve their balance sheets. Without actually spending or banking any money. Value of the players being exchanged was allegedly inflated by both sides of the deal to show plus valenza, or capital gains, profit on the sale of an asset. The points deduction, which Juve immediately challenged. 2 months earlier, the entire board of directors, including the chairman, Andrea Agnelli, and the former player Pavel Nedved, resigned because criminal charges were pending. Now 2 ongoing cases involving Juve, one overseen by the sporting magistrate regarding capital gains. The other is a criminal case in which Juve is accused of false accounting, market manipulation, obstructing inspectors, and fraudulent financial statements. In Juve last year, and remember for UEFA, we talked about UEFA in hour number 1. This is personal. Nick reminds us that Alexander Sefrin was godfather to Agnelli's kid before Agnelli stabbed him in the back to start the Super League. So going after Juve is the best way to get revenge in this case. 22, Juve's revenue slumped 8%. Remember, this is all a part of Juve and Jeep and all of that. Operating costs increased 7.5%. Revenues slumped 8%. The past 5 years, the club has asked shareholders for cash injections of 700 million euro to cover losses of 613. Quoting Giovanni Coboligili, the chair of Juve between 06 and 09. As if there's been a sinkhole. There's been this continuous chasing of revenues when what they should have been doing was limiting the disproportionate and senseless costs. Plus Valenza scandal didn't involve Juve alone. The transfer of Victor Osimhen. 4 Napoli players traded for Osimhen, allegedly to have been overvalued at almost 20 million euro to offset the cost. Yet while Juve wasn't the only club moving players around, allegations would show the club took the practice to new levels. One Juve executive, recorded by investigators looking into the club's finances, says, quote, "I feel as if I'm selling my soul." Remember, the Juve point deduction was rescinded pending the retrial. And you've got this UEFA thought that we talked about in hour number 1. So when you discuss what's going on with Juve, after Calciopoli in 2006, they got back to Serie A, worked their way all the way back. But the question remains, is this a larger problem? And I think we see it in microcosms in lower divisions, especially after promotion and relegation, to a lesser degree than what we have with what we're seeing with Juve. All of this money is being invested, and then you have a guy like Fabio Paratici who works his way in through the system, becomes sporting director, and is part and parcel to what we're seeing with Juve. The article mentions what happened with COVID creating a hole in Juve's accounts. Paratici began systematically using player exchanges to increase the revenues of the company without actually receiving any money. An accounting technique called plus valenza incrociate, exchanged or crossed capital gains. The system worked because, and this is, once again, Tobias Jones. System worked because, as with modern art, it's notoriously difficult to put an accurate figure on the value of a football player. Just look at Transfermarkt. If 2 clubs could agree to sell to each other players that were officially on the balance sheet worth 1 million euro for 10 times that amount, each could record a capital gain of 9 million euro and add to their books a new asset reportedly worth 10 million euro. Tobias Jones, it might have been questionable, but it wasn't illegal. Who is to say a young player hadn't increased in value tenfold? After all, the market undervalues emerging players all the time. Once again, look at Transfermarkt. Look at Thiago Almada and where they value him. Plus Valenza, not new. Carlo Diana, in his book, The Football of the Future, he was a former Juve marketing manager, writes of Italian football being close to declaring bankruptcy and describes how the industry has been sustaining itself for years thanks only to Plus Valenza. The pressure to disguise losses through inflated capital gains seemed to have come from the very top. In an email to Paratici and other colleagues, Agnelli urged his staff to contain losses through corrective actions. But after COVID, Paratici began swapping players with other clubs for allegedly inflated amounts. Transfer window of summer 2020. Pjanic goes to Barca for 60. Arthur Melo goes the other way for 72. Paratici said in a wiretapped phone call to the Director General of Pisa in September of 2021, quote, "If all goes well, there will be loads of money for everyone." Juve directors began asking their auditors advice about how to supercazzolare inspectors at the National Italian Stock Exchange. Supercazzolare, to befuddle, to confuse. Transfers often seem to have nothing to do with football because, once again, Juve is a part and parcel to a larger company structure. Juve accused of having to decide the value of capital gains required and only then chosen which players suited the sum. In the words of the judgment from the Italian Football Federation, Juve systematically planned the realization of capital gains regardless of the identity of the subject to be exchanged, often indicated with a simple X in place of the name of the Juve player to be sold. May of 2021 was when the public prosecutor in turn opened the Prisma investigation into finances. One club exec admitted to investigators there's €7 million in debt with Atalanta, never been entered into the balance sheet. One agent had been owed €400,000. Club's debts to players who were owed months of salary became a form of, quote, credit bondage, whereby the money owed could be used as an incentive to stay. We've had that, with unpaid salaries being rewritten as a loyalty bonus. A secret document was unearthed in which Paratici in July of 2021 had written an IOU to Ronaldo for a figure believed to be €19.9 million for another round of secretive salary payments during the 2020-2021 season. Yes, exactly, Modiflow. Narrator, it did not go well. Guardian wanted to interview Agnelli. Juve basically sent over a bunch of links on press releases. 2021, Juve struggling to keep afloat. €3.5 billion loan from JP Morgan shared among the clubs to start the Super League. That would have taken Juve's cash flow problems out the door. You wouldn't have had that problem anymore. And the Super League cash goes away. Agnelli's trying to figure out how to generate income. Had a power lunch with a lot of the other bosses in Serie A. Club was forced to return to shareholders for a recapitalization. That was that other 300 to first from the €400 million. But the question remains. So Agnelli was banned from involvement in football. No possibility Juve goes bust. About 2/3 of the shares held by Exor, owned by the Agnelli family. Net income of €6.2 billion in 22. Next hearing in the criminal case on May the 10th. UEFA might intervene. We talked about that in hour one. But the question remains, Jan today, pay tomorrow. Once again, the requested required reading. If you subscribe to The Guardian or can help them out. The question remains about, they might need to do a part two. Question remains, and this is what we've been talking about this morning, Fabio Paratici. Why did Spurs, sorry, Sean, and you might be able to type in all caps for this. Why did Spurs feel that bringing in Fabio Paratici was the right thing to do? Why? With all of this stuff that's going on with Paratici at his old gig, why did you think that this was a good deal? And then, we'll get into that, Ricky. Thank you. Why did you think that hiring Paratici was a good idea, considering all of the baggage he was bringing with him from his time at Juve? And then it gets to the point to where, he's got a worldwide show cause. And you thought that this was a good idea. You bring in Conte, you bring in Paratici. This was a fantastic notion. And then he gets a worldwide show cause. And shockingly, and I know this will stun each and every one of you, shockingly, Paratici, first off, is suspended from his gig where he can kind of sit at a table if he wants, but he can't really say anything. And then it goes from there to just, you're done. Why Spurs thought this was a good idea, I have no idea. Like I said, Sean, maybe you can have a better idea of this than the rest of us. But who knows? I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. Someone who has as much scrutiny, public and private. You bring him in as sporting director. He gets the worldwide show cause, and then you got to let him go. Yeah, narrator, it did not go well. Tafka, sports compromised at its core. The rot will spread, unfortunately. Not sure if we'll ever see a regeneration of the game with rules set to prevent money corrupting the management of clubs, especially with vertical integration, I know. But yeah, that's your requested required reading for the day. And it's a good deep dive into the question and to the possibility of stuff happening a little further down the line when it comes to Juve, the FIGC, points deductions, all the financial stuff. We'll keep an eye on it, but it's a good deep dive asking us about the future of the game. Well, that was the wrong one. This is the one I was looking for. The Matt Crocker hire is official at U.S. Soccer. Kind of had been talked about in bits and pieces, and now that it's officially official, Matt Crocker is now sporting director for U.S. Soccer. They've come out with a press release. Former English Football Association head of development teams in Southampton, director of football ops, of overseeing all technical aspects of U.S. Soccer. Sporting director Crocker will oversee U.S. Soccer's entire sporting department, focusing on the men's and women's national team programs, youth national teams, and the extended national teams. Crocker is responsible for setting U.S. Soccer's sporting vision, overseeing performance of all national teams, implementing the technical development plan, developing sporting culture, philosophy, and ensuring greater communication and sharing of best practices. While he will start full-time August 2nd, Crocker will immediately begin the process of hiring the head coach of the men's national team and supporting the women's national team GM, Kate Markgraf, and women's national team head coach Vlatko Andonovski. He will officially start during the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, quoting Cindy Parlow-Cohn. During the interview process, we identified several key characteristics and experiences that set Matt apart. An experienced leader and has had success at the professional and national team level. He's a great communicator and team builder. Matt brings a wealth of experience in player development and has a clear strategy. As we continue to build and strengthen U.S. Soccer, we're confident Matt's leadership will be instrumental in helping us achieve our goals. Thrilled to welcome him to the U.S. Soccer family. Look forward to working together to continue the growth of the sport. Quote from Crocker, helped the FA establish the England DNA. Playing and coaching styles within the national team setups. Leadership at the England FA coincided with the resurgence of their youth national teams. Helped design and implement organizational development blueprints for both the men's and women's, from the U15 girls and boys up through the full men's and women's national teams. During his time as the strategic and cultural lead, which included national teams and coaching education, England captured both the U17 and U20 World Cups. 2 years later, England won the European U19. Most recent role at Southampton was director of football ops, focusing on men's, women's, and academy programs, despite having the smallest budget in the Premier League. I don't like the way that this is phrased. The club stayed in the top flight for 8 consecutive seasons. Phrasing. There are still a couple of matches to go, and yes, I know Southampton's at the bottom of the table, but kind of phrase it a little bit. They mentioned Bale, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Luke Shaw, James Ward-Prowse. The SFC playbook, driving alignment with game model, training model, and specific characteristics delivered throughout the academy to the first team. Critical development in Southampton FC women, converting the program from part-time to fully professional, risen from the National League to the Women's Championship in only 2 years. So Matt Crocker is officially official. Now, with Matt Crocker, and like I said, Nix, the more that you hear about him, the more you love him. Niall. Feels like Marsh will be a possibility now. Tafka. Most important boxes checked. To hire completely unrelated to the previous generations of players, coaches, and execs. Thank God. Niall, especially that Crocker wanted to bring Marsh in at Southampton. Don't know if Crocker will be living in Atlanta. But the mention of Jesse Marsh. Remember, Niall, as Niall points out, Don't know, OG. And, OG's asking, English DNA, do we really want this? Southampton, I mean, if you look at Southampton from its surface, and I know that this is what folks will look at. The first thing I know that folks are looking at with Southampton is the fact that they're probably going to get relegated, and that Crocker was looking for another. Yeah, and yes, and he is Welsh. Yes, that is true. That Southampton stayed afloat for the longest time in the Premier League with a budget that really was not, they were not able to match the teams around them with their budget. And I think that this year it's catching up with them. I honestly thought it was going to catch up with them last year with Hasenhüttl, and it looked pretty bad for a while, but they survived then. I don't think they survived this year. But you wonder, with everything that he's developed on the women's side, on the club side, the women's side, you look at that. You look at Southampton and what they were able to do, staying afloat in the top flight as long as they have. And I want to obviously know more. I want to hear more about what he's looking for. And I want to hear him when he has his first press conference, when he's asked questions, or when he has his first Zoom or what have you. And what he is looking for in a first-team manager for the men's national team. And I know that it lends itself to a Jesse Marsch type because of the conversations that were there. Bringing in Marsch to take over for Nathan Jones, then that fell through. The easy parallel here is to sit there and say, okay, Crocker was interested in Marsch at Southampton. Would he be interested in Jesse with the men's national team? And the chance is there. Is it Marsch and Curtin with the men's national team? That's the question. And OG is right. First indicator is the men's national team hire. I know that we're all leaning toward Jesse Marsch now because of recency. So we'll keep an eye on it. But Matt Crocker's officially official with U.S. Soccer. Yeah, and in a job that Marsch wants. So that's the key in all of this. Is this as easy as we are piecing it out to be? Crocker, old job, interested in Marsch. Crocker, new job, interested in Marsch, question mark. My guess is, considering that, Rich, in a job that Jesse Marsch wants, is Crocker going to interview for this gig? And David, something to keep an eye on, the style of play that they have in their locations may not necessarily be what they would have with the men's national team. I think in this case, I think what you're looking for is, okay, we have these individuals, and so with this talent pool, we should be able to do X, Y, and Z. I don't think that you would necessarily have the Jesse Marsch, Bielsa-ish element that's attached to it, or the Jim Curtin 4-4-2 diamond driving people crazy. If it was a Marsch Curtin administration, I would think that style would be dictated by talent and not coaches sitting there and saying, okay, I want to shoehorn my thought pattern into those individuals. Bernd is looking at Steve Cherundolo because Niall poses the question, who would people want for the USMNT? And that's probably our QOD here. Who do you want? Now that Crocker is in, Crocker leaned toward Jesse Marsh at Southampton. Men's national team gig is what Jesse Marsh wants. So then who, dear listener, dear reader, dear watcher, who would you want? Byrne wants Cherundolo. But Niall, the question is, knowing what the national team means to Steve Cherundolo, if Matt Crocker came knocking on his door, would you say no? I mean, obviously, if it was the offer that you couldn't refuse. Sorry, the offer that you couldn't refuse. Then Cherundolo would obviously have to consider it. I think, yeah, I mean, Jesse, Nix, I think he does want the gig. Jason asks, do we know if Marsh really wants the job? He's still sniffing around English teams. I think that, well, and I mean, we can put one and one together here. Crocker at Southampton goes after Marsh. Crocker at U.S. Soccer, does he go after Marsh? I think that this gig would mean more to Jesse from a nationalistic sense. Yeah, see, Marsh, Kurt, and Cherundolo, all teammates and friends, bring the band together. La Banda. And Coco, M&T is Marsh's chance to turn his perception around. So I think that whomever takes over, and once again, we can talk to Bart. We'll talk to Bart about this tomorrow. We will. When it comes to, Matt Rule, wow. When it comes to coach, the coach should have a defined set of ideas, but with the talent pool that's attached, I mean, it's not something where you're going to sit there and go, okay, all right, this is my style, and by the way, the lineup that's here, you're going to do that. You're not going to have the time, really. Yeah, shoe game is definitely on all there. But you're not going to have the time. Well, and Will, that might not be a bad black helicopter. Will, I mean, it certainly introduces them to each other. Will says black helicopter time. And I guess this may not be too far-fetched. Marsh links to Southampton, actually Crocker interviewing him for USMNT. Well, like I said, I think that the association was there. And so Crocker interviewing Marsh got where he was coming from. So now that Crocker is with U.S. Soccer, he knows where Jesse Marsh is coming from. And so I think that it is natural to make that leap in logic to, okay, so he's interviewed him at Southampton. He knows what he's got. He knows what he would be getting. Now he's interviewing him for U.S. Soccer. It would be on a team scale for a country and a national team. So if it does turn into the Marsh-Curtin administration, then Crocker already has that level of familiarity in the interview process with Jesse Marsh. So that's what you're looking at. Yeah, and that's what I said. Or it could be Jesse. Well, I don't know. Or Jesse interviewing Crocker for the U.S. Yeah, Tata is available, OG. That is true. Frankly, I think that Tata is more than happy just, back home, kind of drifting in and keeping an eye on local teams and things like that. I think he's just kind of happy hanging at the moment. So I'm looking at Crocker and Marsh as my number one idea. Like I said, we'll talk to Bart about all this tomorrow. Talk about Crocker, talk about Marsh, talk about Marsh and Curtin. But I think that when you're bringing in a manager, it is to have a skill set in your brain and bring it to the players that you're going to have given to you as a part of the pool, the ones that work their way through. You kind of know what you're getting into with the players. At Southampton, I mean, Leeds, Jesse Marsh was a natural progression from Marcelo Bielsa. That was a natural progression. Marsh and Southampton, I don't know. I don't know if it would fit where you would have to give Marsh a X plus half year contract to fix things, because I don't know if the individuals that are there would fit his philosophy of pressing, running around, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Che Adams and James Ward-Prowse would have fit what Marsh had done at Leeds or any other previous stop. So I think that I think that it would be different. It would be coming at it from 180 degrees as opposed to coming at it from the head-on notion that we're staring at. All right, what have you guys been talking about? Yes, I know you're trying to start wild rumors. Will, I apologize. I know I'm trying to rationalize everything. I'm sorry. No, David, Tata did not do well with Mexico. He also had a subpar roster, and it was pretty frustrating. Marsh's image definitely damaged, but you have to applaud what he did at Salzburg, Niall. Yeah, and like I said, and Tom, the recent rumors of Tata wanting an MLS return are fascinating, given what we know about why he supposedly left here in the first place. I'm not putting as much stock into that sentence. It would have to be such the right gig. But I think that right now, Tata Martino is just as happy sipping mate and hanging around a corner. And if it's a national team, I think that Tata's next gig might be coaching back home. So that's what I'm staring at with Tata Martino. I think he's happy right now, just kind of chilling. And, and in a soundbite, I know you never want to say never. You want to sit there and you want to play nice and those kinds of things. But no, I think that Tata right now, I think he's happy. I think he's happy and he's chilling. We got Open Cup tonight. Yes, be sure to believe everything on the Bird app. Yes, OG, you're absolutely correct. Believe everything on the Bird app. We've got Open Cup tonight. And remember that we've got CBS Golazo Network, and they've got their piece of the broadcast, and also BR does. So here's your rundown for tonight. Very, very busy night. And once again, if we have cup sets, I know that there are a lot of us here who would sit there and go, I don't know if that's a cup set. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if that's a cup set or not. But here's what you're staring at. Pittsburgh Riverhounds and Maryland Bobcats at Highmark. That's on the BR app or BR Football YouTube channel. Charleston Charlotte, as of right now at 7 o'clock, does not have any kind of viewing access. Revs hosting Hartford Athletic at Gillette. That is a team cast. 7:30. Once again, remember Charlotte and Tormenta at Matthews. That is on CBS Golazo Network. It's part of the download part of CBS Network, Paramount Plus, and all that kind of stuff. Thank you, Ricky. You beat me to it. Detroit City at Keyworth hosting Minnesota United. BR Football YouTube. St. Louis City SC and the Murder Owls of Union Omaha. They're at City Park at 8 o'clock Eastern. That's on BR. Sporting Kansas City and Tulsa Athletic. Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. I want to know how Sporting lines up for this one. That's a team broadcast there. And Monterey Bay is actually getting to play a match at Cardinal, hosting San Jose Earthquakes at 10 o'clock. That is on the BR app and BR Football YouTube. We do have some juice boxes. Pittsburgh, no surprise, a big favorite with Maryland at a minus 476. Maryland's basically a plus 950. Detroit City at home is a plus 301. Minnesota United a minus 127 on the road. Revs a minus 256 at home. Hartford Athletic north of plus 560. St. Louis City is a minus 370. Don't tell the folks in Omaha that. They're almost a plus 800. Monterey Bay is a plus 229. And San Jose comes to Cardinal at a minus 104. So that's what you're looking at with all of your Open Cupness. But yeah, so Golasso Network is going to have one on Tuesday and then two on Wednesday. But yeah, Golasso Network, Charlotte and South Georgia Tormenta. That one's going to be a fun one. So Tormenta actually practiced at Bank of America yesterday. So they were getting ready for it. And the other soccer on TV today, remember, CONCACAF Champions League. That's at 10 o'clock. First leg of Tigres and Leon, the right-hand side of the bracket. USA Network has Leeds and Leicester at 3. The other two matches, the 2:30 and the 2:45, they are on Peacock. ESPN Deportes doubleheader, Spanish La Liga Santander, Girona Real Madrid at 1:30. Real Betis and Real Sociedad at 4. We mentioned everything in the U.S. Open Cup in round number 3. Championship on the plus at 3 is a Blackburn Burnley, La Liga Santander, Cadiz Osasuna, Girona Real Madrid, Real Betis Real Sociedad. Peacock has Wolves Crystal Palace, Aston Villa Fulham, and your team casts are both on YouTube with the Revs and Sporting Kansas City. OG thought that Golasso Network was free. Appears you have to subscribe to Paramount Plus. What's the deal? They are on Pluto TV. And I'm going to get the particulars. I know it is a part of, the, my fat fingers will not help me. I know they're a part of Paramount Plus. And if you go, by the way, you can go, OG, I'm going to post the link because they are going right now with their morning show. You can watch it on CBSSports.com because I just turned over and they were having morning footy with Susanna Collins, Charlie Davies, Alexis, and who's the fourth one on the desk? Is it Nico Cantor? Yeah, Nico Cantor. So, yeah, Susanna, Nico, Charlie, and Alexis right now doing morning footy, and they're going over match preview. So catch it on CBSSports.com because they're going on right now. And being me and already subscribing to Paramount Plus, I would probably just dial it up on Paramount Plus because all I have to do is go into my remote and go Paramount Plus, and then it goes over. So, so there's that. All right. Yeah, Jim Curtin was on Morning Footy this morning. Yes, he was. We're busy doing a morning show. Yes, Pluto got demoted as a planet. Now it is a network. Pluto TV. I don't know if you get to see everything from the outer reaches of the solar system that happened, was it 30 years ago? How long does light and signal have to come from one back to the other? No, go to CBSSports.com. It's there. So that's what you're staring at with soccer on TV. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, things left unsaid. Who's going where? Who's not going where? Once again, we mentioned United doing their due diligence and trying to get Harry Kane. United wants to increase Kane's current £200,000 a week contract to $300,000 at Spurs. He's making $200,000 a week at Spurs. They want to boost it to $300,000 at United if he moves. Also trying to tie down Marcus Rashford to new terms on a $300,000 a week deal, a pound deal. That's from a 3-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. We mentioned the Wilf Zaha deal. He's being chased by Arsenal, Chelsea, and PSG. Inter Milan put a price tag of £35 million on goalkeeper Andre Onana. Chelsea's targeting the 27-year-old that comes from our friends at Goal. Manchester United joined Chelsea in monitoring Neymar from Foot Mercato. Expected to leave PSG this summer. Chelsea's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Barca's top target for a new camp return this summer to provide backup for Lewandowski, according to Sky. How are they going to pay him? It's always going to be my question. Bobby Firmino keen on joining Barca when his contract expires at the end of the year. The Spanish club's not interested. Okay. Brighton's Alexis will leave this summer, plans to stay in the Premier League. Liverpool lead the chase. Spurs, Chelsea, Newcastle also interested. Borussia Dortmund keeping tabs on Conor Gallagher, valued at around €50 million. Crystal Palace was smart. They'd try to grab him back. Spain's Gavi has reassured Barca he has no plans to leave, despite not agreeing to a new deal and being watched by a number of clubs across Europe, including Chelsea. Manchester City competing with United, Liverpool, and Spurs to sign center back Kim Min-jae from Napoli. That's a three-letter paper again. Spain's Aymeric Laporte, unhappy at Manchester City after struggling for regular starts, wants to join Barca. How are they going to pay him? Newcastle planning to bring back Barca's Rafinha back to the Premier League. Could be joined by defender Arda Güler and his midfield teammate Ferdi Kadiolu from Fenerbahce. Villa keen on signing Argentina midfielder Giovanni Lo Celso on loan at Villarreal from Spurs, played under Unai Emery at the Spanish club. That's from the four-letter paper. Brighton joined by Villa in scouting Valencia's Andre Almeida. Newcastle and Dortmund among the clubs monitoring the situation with Leeds Crescencio Somerville. Chelsea close to finalizing a deal on Diego Moreira from Benfica. Newcastle, Manchester United scouts watching Slovenia forward Benjamin Sesko play for Red Bull Salzburg at the weekend. Liverpool and Chelsea joined Manchester City in the race to sign 16-year-old Croat center back Luka Vuskovic from Hajduk Split. Four-letter paper. And Arsenal are set to revive their interest in Wolves' Portugal forward Pedro Neto. That's from one side of things, checking the papers, what the paper talk is. Once again, when we can find what the papers are saying, Jurgen Klopp says that the sporting director search for Liverpool is going in the right direction. Hasn't been involved in the talks, but he says it's been going in the right direction. Let's see. Papers. Here we go. And we'll get into the transfers and see if there's anything different. Daily Telegraph. Once again, Manchester United making attempts to Harry Kane. Pochettino's in final negotiations to sign Chelsea. Four-man brain trust with Bowley and Bowley Clearlake. We mentioned Steve Cooper and John Joe Shelby. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. Spurs Stadium hosting it to stuff going on next season involving European finals, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers. Daily Mirror, Manchester United striker Wout Weghorst has admitted he felt sorry for Solly March after the Brighton winger missed from the spot following his kiss of death in the FA Cup semifinal shootout. The Athletic, FA Cup final, Manchester City and Manchester United set for an earlier kickoff time with the FA and Metropolitan Police due to figure that out. Southampton Academy director Matt Hale is going to leave. Understandably so, considering the current situation. FIFA has received 4 expressions of interest from prospective host nations from the 27 World Cup. Brazil, South Africa. Then you have the Brazil, Netherlands bid, Germany to go with that, and then U.S. and Mexico. Soyuncu expected to sign a pre-contract agreement to join Atletico Madrid at the end of the season. Sorry, Knicks. Yeah, don't get hung up on details. Guardian, we mentioned Wolf Zaha. President of the La Liga, Javier Tebas, said the European Club Association does not represent the best interests of domestic leagues, as he's helped to launch a union that will aim to give a voice to more than 1,000 clubs across the continent. Daily Record, Motherwell turned down a 6-figure offer for striker Kevin Van Veen from Changchun Yatai. And Wigan have opened the door for Aberdeen to sign Captain Graham Shinnie on a permanent basis. Wigan on the verge of being relegated. Rangers closing in on a deal for goalie Jack Butland. Rangers considering a move for Nigerian prodigy Miracle Oguduba after he impressed in a behind-closed-door match against Chelsea's development squad. There was another thing that I wanted to grab before we go. And here we go. 171 Juve supporters have been banned by Italian police after an investigation into the racist abuse directed at Inter Milan striker Romelu Lukaku during the Coppa Italia semifinal first leg earlier this month. 171 Juve supporters. We seem to be talking a lot about Juve this morning. But 171, that's a good start. I still want to know how you're going to enforce it. I want to know how. I mean, yeah, it's great. What, are you going to have a list? You're going to check faces? You're going to do QR code scans? You scanning driver's licenses? What are you doing? 171, that's a great start. But once again, when it comes to, it's almost like with Barcelona. How's Barcelona going to pay for it? How's everybody, how's Juve and Serie A going to enforce it? How are they going to enforce it? Seriously, I want to know. How are you going to enforce it? Exactly. I need that drop. I need to add that drop. Will. You just made the list. Exactly. But how are you going to enforce this? Seriously. Legitimately, seriously. How are you going to enforce this? You got 171 names on a list. Is this just for Juve? Is this for Serie A? Is this for anything and everything going on in Italy, regardless of level of competition? Can they get into a Coppa Italia match? How are you going to enforce this? That's what I want to know. How are you going to enforce it? It's fantastic. I hope that you charge them to the fullest extent of the law. I don't know if you will. I'm naturally skeptical when it comes to those kinds of things. That's just me. But like I said, how are you going to enforce it? That's the biggest question I have in a situation like this. Evan Ferguson has agreed to a new long-term contract at Brighton. Had more than 3 years left on his current deal. Negotiated another contract. 7 goals in all comps for the 18-year-old. And Harry Kane would need to drive an exit from Spurs, according to Melissa Reddy over at Sky. Maintaining the striker is not for sale, is Tottenham, despite him approaching the final year of his deal. So he's going to have to be the one to drive that. He's going to be drive that bus. Brentford boss Thomas Frank predicts the turning point for clear favorites Chelsea's latent form could happen in the blink of an eye. He had his press conference. Very good players. I know they haven't won, I think, clearly in the 4 games that Lampard has been in charge, playing with bigger energy, more intensity on the eye and also on the numbers. Sometimes it takes one moment. Now they had a good week to work with them at Stamford Bridge. They are clear favorites, of course. They should be, but we hope we can believe we can do something. Jurgen Klopp, Connor Bradley will get a chance to break into the first-team squad, taking part in the preseason next year, 19-year-old. Fulham want to sign Benfica left-back Alex Grimaldo when he becomes a free agent this summer. Kurzawa's loan from PSG expires at the end of the year, also understood to be question marks over Jedi Robinson's future heading into the summer. They want to improve a key number of areas in the team, especially in the defense, looking for 2 center halves, one that can work from each foot. We mentioned the Soyuncu pre-contract with Atleti. 4-letter paper has Leeds staring at Barca's 19-year-old youth international Ilias Akamash. Villa keeping a watchful eye on Lo Celso's performance at Villarreal. We mentioned Vuskovic. Lower divisions, Blackpool, Birmingham, Wigan, Portsmouth keeping an eye on Larna striker Lee Bonis. Once again, that's from the 4-letter paper, so keep that information at your own peril. So it's a 4-year contract offer, more than $10 million a year to stay at Crystal Palace for Wilf Zaha. That's what you're staring at right now. And Daily Mail, once again, the 4-letter paper, where Palace is concerned, they apparently had a delegation in Brazil to discuss a potential move for Flamengo midfielder Mateus Franca. So there's a lot of that going on. So lots and lots of stuff involving Open Cup. A lot of matches tonight on BR. Golasso Network, catch that on CBS Sports. Yes. Answer that question. Yeah. Poorly. Yes. He chose poorly. Exactly. But yesterday, to wrap things up, it was the first round of the round of 8 in soccer in the state of Georgia. And thanks to, once again, everybody up at Cambridge for letting us broadcast Cambridge and Chambly on the girls' side. And it was a very cool environment up there. And shout out to the student body. Very, very busy day on campus. And once again, thanks to Coach Broadwell and everybody up there at Cambridge for letting us come and crash. But all the girls' matches were decided yesterday. Your Final Four in 7A, Denmark shuts out Richmond Hill down on the coast. Mill Creek loses to Campbell. Campbell hosts Denmark. Walton shuts out Harrison and Raider Valley. Forsyth Central, an interesting story this year, beats Archer. Walton at Forsyth Central, 6A. Pope shuts out North Atlanta. They'll host Roswell, a 4 seed that has made it through. We had the Roswell River Ridge game in round 2 on SDH. Roswell beat Jackson County, beat River Ridge, beat St. Pius. Can they do it one more time on the road? They go to Pope. Lassiter shut out Woodward Academy down by the airport. Marist beat BT 4-1, so it's Lassiter at Marist in 6A. 5A. Greenbrier beat Northview 2-1. They will host Northgate, who beat GAC by the score of 3-0. Northgate is a 2 seed. Greenbrier is a 1. So Greenbrier hosting on the left. One of the bigger upsets of the night, Midtown over McIntosh. So Midtown's girls beat McIntosh. They will travel to Chambly to take on Chambly. Chambly once again beating Cambridge 6-3. So Chambly, the number 2 ranked team in the country, beat the number 7 ranked team in the country, according to Max Preps. Midtown and Chambly, that one is on Thursday, and that one is going to be huge, right-hand side of the bracket. Quad A. Holy Innocents in a shootout over Whitewater 4-3 at Whitewater. They're going to go to North Oconee now. North Oconee beat LaGrange 5-0. Westminster shut out Stars Mill, putting 6 on them. Lovett put 9 on Trinity Christian. Great run by Jessica Charman and the Trinity Christian group. Coming through as a 4 seed, beating Southeast Bullock, beating Shaw, losing to Lovett. So Lovett and Westie, the battle of West Paces Ferry on the right-hand side of the bracket in Quad A. Girls, AAA. Wesleyan over Columbus in Columbus 1-0. They're going to go to Watkinsville to take on Oconee County. They beat Savannah Country Day 4-0. Bremen, right-hand side, beat Morgan County 3-0. St. Vincent's hung on to beat White County 1-0. So St. Vincent's at Bremen, Wesleyan at Oconee County. AA. Yesterday, Fitzgerald from Ben Hill County, they had the home match, beat Model 3-1. They will travel to Fellowship Christian. Fellowship Christian shut out Ace in Macon 5-0. Mount Perrin Christian beat Toombs 3-1. They host Athens Academy, who shut out Savannah Arts 4-0. A2 girls. Towns County beat Hawkinsville in Hawkinsville 2-0. So Hiawassee now travels again, and they'll go to Lake Oconee Academy, who beat Atlanta Classical 2-1. Right-hand side, Aquinas has been putting up big numbers. They put 9 on Georgia Military, put 10 on Mount Zion Carroll. They get MCA, who shut out Dooley County 4-0. So Towns at Lake Oconee Academy, MCA at Aquinas. A lot of folks are looking at Aquinas, Class A D1. Mount Vernon beat Temple 11-1. Commerce beat Bleckley County 10-0 in Cochran. Mount Vernon has to travel to Commerce. Social Circle shuts out East Lawrence 4-0 with all of their firepower. We've had them on in session this year. Paideia beats Lamar County 9-1. So Social Circle at Paideia. That's probably again at Avondale Stadium. Jason had the Paideia-Lamar County match yesterday. So Mount Vernon at Commerce, Social Circle at Paideia. That's your rundown and your Final Fours for the girls. On the boys' side, all of those round of 8s are today. 7A, Campbell's at Collins Hill, Richmond Hills at Lambert, Parkview's at Walton, Norcross hosting Archer. 6A, upper left, Pius at Lassiter, Johns Creek at Glen Academy, River Ridge hosting Riverwood, BT hosting Lakeside DeKalb, who's come through as a 4 seed with 2 straight wins. 5A, Dalton hosting Chambly, Flowery Branch at Union Grove, upper right, McIntosh at Midtown, Bradwell Institute at Centennial. Quad A, upper left, North Oconee at Cairo, Whitewater at Johnson Gainesville. It's going to be a tall order for Whitewater. Right-hand side, East Hall at Benedictine, LaGrange at Westminster. Remember, all these are today. Keep an eye on your social media, and if you can catch a match, go catch a match. AAA boys, Wesleyan is at Columbus. Coney County is at Pike County in Zebulon. Right-hand side, Hebron Christian is at Savannah Country Day. Peach County is at Coahulla Creek in the mountains. AA boys, Pierce County is at Model. Providence Christian at Ace Charter. Right-hand side, Fellowship Christian at Tattnall County. And Union County is in Eatonton taking on Putnam County. A2 boys. Aquinas at Atkinson County. Great season for the team down there in Pearson. Atco coming out of Area 1, Team 1. Lake Oconee Academy at Christian Heritage, so it's a bit of a hike for them. They probably are leaving now. Right-hand side, Mount Zion Carroll at Portal. Fuji's Academy beat Chatco 5-1 in round 1. They go to Milledgeville to take on Georgia Military. Class A D1 boys. Atlanta International at Bacon County. They got to travel to Alma. They probably already left. Whitfield Academy heading to Claxton. They probably already left. Right-hand side, Armurchie at Woodville Tompkins. And Lamar County at Paideia, back-to-back days. That's probably at Avondale Stadium, too. So we'll keep an eye on that. And these matches go Tuesday, Friday. Girls go Monday, Thursday. So keep an eye on all your favorite teams. And if you can catch a match, catch a match. It's really cool. And once again, thanks to all the schools that have been helping us out so we can broadcast all the matches that we've been able to broadcast as a part of our high school coverage, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Proud supporters of everything that we do here when it comes to soccer, all levels, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente, thrive. That's a show. And we'll be back at it later today. We will have Prem and Proper up and our USL programming weeks in review for the championship in League One. Remember, tomorrow in a perfect world, if Dylan Butler is chasing after high school stuff, he's chasing after high school stuff. If he can join us at 10, he joins us at 10. Bart Keeler gets to talk about Crocker. He gets to talk about the U.S. He gets to talk about Arsenal. He gets to talk about refereeing and the idea of someone who is a physical presence and not getting wound up in that and not calling fouls and calling fouls. Talk about Yorgos Giacomakis and those physical presences and players who get fouled and trucked. So Bart's at 10:30. We'll have Open Cup to talk about tomorrow. We'll have those matches to go through, the 8 today, the 8 tomorrow. It'll be the USL guys coming to join in. 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, the USL show. I think Kaler's going to be with us, Kaler Hodges, and they're looking for somebody else to join Kaler for the half hour that they sit in when we go through everything in the USL. And Friday is going to be the sprint. 9 o'clock is normal. 9:30 is Beyond Goals. And 10 o'clock is the weekend whip around. Patent pending trademark coming as Atlanta United comes out of Open Cup on Wednesday and gets ready for the trip to Nashville on Thursday. So very, very busy show on a bunch of different fronts. Thanks to all of you guys for being a part of it, as you always are. You can listen now in a little bit when it comes up on the audio side on the SDH app on Android. Go to the Spreaker app on iOS and do a search for Soccer Down Here. And you can always listen to soccerdownhere.net and all of our social media channels. So thanks again for hanging out with us as you always do. Since it's the end of the show, Mucha Plati, all played safe, and that means I get to do this. We'll be back at it 9:05 tomorrow morning.